Chapter 10. Justin handled Roberto's laying down of the law with more aplomb than I would have. Of course, I think he would have agreed to anything as long as the end result meant he got to leave. After going over what he expected from Justin at length, it was my turn to receive instructions. It was all I could do to not roll my eyes, as Roberto insisted I contact him immediately if Justin gave me any trouble. He reiterated Justin's curfew and cleaning schedule and stated I was not to cut him any slack. Roberto would have continued on and on if I hadn't gone to him and kissed him quiet. I'd finally figured out it was nerves driving him to be so dictatorial. My big, strong man was scared. Of what, I didn't know. Enough. Justin and I will be fine. Won't we, Justin?
Yes, ma'am.
See? It's not like you won't be to the house. We'll see you on Monday and Wednesday nights at church. You're over every Friday. And we spend Sundays here with you. Nothing will go wrong, I assured him. He looked over my head at his son.
You be on your best behavior. I don't want you scaring Nina off.
Ah, so that was his concern. And it was a valid one. Lots of second marriages failed because of the stepchildren. In addition, there was no telling how many folks never even made it to the altar because they let the children come between them. I wrapped my arms around Roberto's waist and laid my head on his chest. Not going to happen. You're stuck with me. He rested his chin on top of my head. I'm not sure he believed me, but he stopped with the lecture. We lazed the rest of the day away, sprawled on the couch watching television. Roberto had Justin order a pizza for lunch and let him take the truck to go retrieve it. It was 6 before I insisted on leaving again. Roberto finally let us leave, but not before giving me money to help with the groceries his son would consume. I allowed it because, had our situation been reversed, I'd have done the same if I had the funds to do so. I glanced at the passenger seat in bemusement as we headed to my home. Still not certain how I'd manage to get rid of 2 kids for the summer and pick up another one. Frowning as a thought crossed my mind, I asked, "Do you know how to cook?"
Some.
I don't cook during the summer, I warned. Mainly because it was too hot. Who wanted to eat heavy when it was almost 100 degrees outside?
That's all right. I'm fine with sandwiches. Peg didn't cook much either,
he assured me. Mom, I absently corrected. Not sure I like having anything in common with Roberto's former wife, especially after what went down. Silence fell. Frankly, I was at a loss for words now that it was only the 2 of us. I knew Justin from our interactions at church and my work with the youth. There was a sense of connection because he was Roberto's son, but I didn't actually know him. This man-child would be living in my home for the foreseeable future. Maybe I should have set a time limit on his visit. I bit back a sigh.
I'm glad you and Dad are getting married. He's liked you for a long time,
Justin said out of the blue. I briefly took my gaze off the road. He has?
Yeah, we all knew it.
Who is we? I had to keep my attention on the traffic, but I wanted to pull over and grill him. Roberto had said he'd been watching me for a while, but I guess I hadn't believed him, though why he'd lie, I don't know.
Me, my brothers, the guys at the church. It was funny. If we wanted him to go somewhere or do something with the youth, all we had to do is tell him you were going.
He finished with a chuckle. His words made me view the past in a whole new light. I'd thought it chance or lack of willing men that had me and Roberto serving on so many ministries and committees together. Instead, it had been him seeking a way to get close to me. I'd been stalked and hadn't even noticed. A goofy grin crossed my face. After a quick stop by Walmart to pick up groceries and have another house key made, we arrived home. As nice as Roberto's house was, it was good to be back in my own space. Mentally, I paused and then slapped myself. This kind of thinking wouldn't prepare me for marriage. I showed Justin to the guest room. The twins are gone for the entire summer. Normally they don't come home until school starts, but if they learn you're here, that might change. They really liked Justin. You have the key. I'll write down my phone numbers and the security code for the alarm system. Ooh, I hope I remember to call tomorrow and add you to the list. The last was muttered to myself as I turned to go. Leaving him to unpack and get settled, hopefully not too settled. It was still my summer vacation after all. I dropped my things off in my room and went into the kitchen to put up the groceries. Though we'd be at Roberto's for dinner tomorrow, I still thought it prudent to take something out to cook. There was Justin to consider, and I could always take leftovers for lunch. From there, I went into my room and unpacked. Thanks to Roberto's handy little washroom, the only dirty clothes I brought back were the ones on my body. After a quick glance in the closet to see what I'd be wearing to church in the morning, I gathered my pajamas and went into the bathroom to shower. An hour later, I was propped up in bed reading my Bible when a knock sounded at the closed bedroom door. After a quick glance down to make sure I was decent, I called out, "Come in." Justin stood in the doorway, hesitant.
Can I talk to you?
Sure. I patted the empty space beside me on the bed. Justin came and perched on the edge. His manner brought to mind a bird, ready to fly off at the slightest hint of danger. He plucked at a loose string on my bedspread, his shaggy brown hair falling forward to cover his eyes. I was surprised Roberto hadn't made him get a haircut. I don't know if it was his military background, but Roberto definitely favored the clean-cut look. When Justin continued to sit silently, his unease almost a visible aura circling around him, I finally prompted, "What's up?" His gaze bounced off me and toured around the room before landing on the Bible in my lap. Like the sight of it gave him courage. He said,
Dad's always talking to us guys about sex and stuff. How we should wait till after marriage, but...
"Roberto and I aren't having sex," I interrupted, sensing where this was headed. The look he gave me was heavy with skepticism, but he didn't dispute my claim. I sighed. "Justin, in your position, I wouldn't believe me either. I know how damning it looks. We shared a room, slept in the same bed. Even a blind man could see the sexual attraction between us." I had his full attention now. We're also two healthy adults who love each other. I'll admit, we sometimes take things farther than we should, but we haven't crossed the line. Not because we're strong or holy, but because God keeps us. Frankly, I'm glad you're here. We need a chaperone. I paused a moment to let my admission sink in. He had this intrigued expression on his face, right before it broke out into a cheeky grin.
You want me to chaperone you and Dad?
He was trying not to laugh. I needed him to take me this serious. I know you find this amusing, but I'm deadly serious. I want God's blessing on this marriage, which means your father and I have to do things his way. Yeah, he'll forgive us if we get caught up in lust and sin. But our actions will open the door for the enemy to come in and destroy our relationship. I really want this thing between your father and me to work. Marriage is hard enough. The last thing I want is another divorce. Justin sobered when I mentioned the D word. Roberto believes I was chosen for him by God. The devil hates marriage, and anything God puts together, he tries to tear apart. We don't need to give him any additional ammunition. I finished. He gazed at me, his expression puzzled. I smiled to myself. He might not be Roberto's biological son, but he had his father's mannerisms down pat.
You said Dad believes. What about you? Don't you believe God picked Dad for you?
Huh. Intuitive kid. I thought over my answer. I don't not believe. I mean, I feel peace about marrying him, or I wouldn't have agreed. However, I'm praying, waiting on confirmation just to be sure. He readjusted his position on the mattress, turning to face me fully.
Did God tell you not to marry Dad?
Well, no.
If it was wrong, wouldn't God say so? I mean, you're always telling us to pray and ask God for guidance before we make any decision. You said God knows our hearts and He wouldn't let us unknowingly do the wrong thing, not when we've been sincerely praying for and seeking His direction.
He shrugged.
Maybe He's been quiet because this thing with Dad is right.
His words struck with the impact of bullets, straight to the heart. Suddenly, I could see so clearly. I set my Bible to the side, lunged forward, and gave Justin a big bear hug, almost knocking him off the bed in the process. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," I chanted, and kissed his cheek. He planted a foot on the floor to keep us from falling, and awkwardly returned my hug.
You're welcome. What'd I do?
I ruffled his hair and sat back on my knees. For being so smart, I just had a duh moment. When he appeared confused, I explained, "I've been praying and asking God for answers, which He gave. But because it wasn't coming in the manner I expected, I didn't recognize it. I wanted God to say, 'Yes, Roberto is your husband.' Instead, He gave me peace. Every step of the way, He's been with us, working out issues as they arrive. I've been so blind." I closed my eyes while shaking my head, unable to believe how stupid I'd been.
So even experienced Christians like you still get it wrong, huh?
Justin mused. I gave him a wry smile. "Kid, you have no idea." Over the next couple weeks, Justin and I settled into a comfortable routine. I spoke with one of my company's hiring managers about Justin, telling Rick of his desire to be an electrician and his need for a job. Rick brought him in for an interview and hired him part-time based on my recommendation. He put Justin in the maintenance area so he could learn and told him if he did good, they'd keep him on after summer ended and he could work while attending school. So, for 4 hours a day, Justin came to work with me. The rest of the time, he spent catching up with old friends. I no longer answered the house phone since it was never for me, something I was used to with the twins. At night, Justin took possession of my cell phone as well, talking long distance to friends back in Texas. Roberto was at the house more than ever now that his son was living there. Justin took his responsibility as chaperone seriously, sometimes going overboard in his insistence we not be left alone for any period of time. He barely allowed his father to kiss me goodnight at the door. Roberto wanted to strangle him. So did I, but I was honest enough to admit we needed his interference. It had only been one night, but already my body craved the feel of Roberto next to me in bed. Sleep was elusive, and when it came, brought dreams of Roberto and I sexually entwined together. Whenever our eyes met, I could see his need and knew he saw mine. Even with Justin's immovable presence, we touched constantly. While cuddling on the couch watching TV, I could feel the tautness in Roberto's muscles, the hardness of his erection digging into my stomach as I lay with my head resting on his chest. The growing desperation for more was in each goodnight kiss, performed under his son's watchful gaze. It was almost a relief when the day our counseling session with Pastor Williams arrived. Roberto had agreed to let Justin use his SUV to go to the movies, so he rode with me. For a few minutes, it would be just the two of us. Then there was all that lovely time we'd have together waiting for Justin's return. I prayed that our meeting wouldn't take long. I was dressed and waiting when Roberto arrived. He handed his keys to Justin.
Try not to wreck it, and don't be out too late.
He instructed.
Okay. Don't you two do anything to get yourselves in trouble just because I'm not here.
Justin admonished. I held up my hand like I was taking an oath. We'll be good. Scout's honor. He cast a suspicious glance in my direction. I met his gaze blandly. Roberto tugged on my arm.
Come on, we don't want to be late.
I handed him the keys, indicating that he should drive. When we were in the car, pulling out of the driveway, he asked,
Were you ever a Girl Scout?
Nope, I replied, with a huge, if wicked, grin. He chuckled and laid his hand on my knee, steering with his left.
Nice skirt.
Thank you. It came out a little breathless as his fingers began gliding up the inside of my thigh. They'd almost reached my panties before I caught his hand. Stop that.
You sure you want me to?
His voice was pure temptation. Now, when we're on our way to meet with Pastor? Yes, but later? You can play all you want, I promised.
I'll hold you to it. But I need something from you now.
He came to a stop at the stop sign and looked in all directions. The streets were empty.
Come here.
I scooted closer and he leaned forward and kissed me. The kiss was full of tongue, teeth, and heat. The kind we'd been denying ourselves for the last 2 weeks. It went on and on and on, until the blaring of a horn behind us jerked us apart. Settling back on my side, breathing heavily, I asked, How long until we marry?
Too long.
Roberto breathed as he turned his attention back to the road. I think we should move the date up. While we hadn't officially decided on a day, we had tentatively decided to marry next June when the kids were out of school.
What about the twins? I thought you didn't want to move them in the middle of the school year.
Roberto drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Turning, I brought my knee up on the seat. If they're enrolled in one of the schools near you when school starts in the fall, it won't be an issue. He took his eyes off the road long enough to glance in my direction.
Sounds like you're giving this some thought.
I have. Checked into the schools, too. The only thing I haven't done is discussed it with the kids.
And me.
He added. I shrugged. We're talking now.
Why the rush? I thought we agreed to wait a year.
I reached over and placed my hand on his penis, which was hard, as I'd known it would be, and gave it a little squeeze. He hissed and snatched my hand away. Reason number 1, I stated calmly. Roberto continued to hold my hand against his thigh.
Sex is not reason enough.
I laughed. That's not what the Bible says. If they burn, let them marry, remember? Then I sighed. It's getting harder and harder to let you leave at night. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I want to be with you. This living in separate houses just isn't cutting it for me anymore. He brought our linked hands to his mouth and kissed the back of mine.
Are you sure? I know you aren't comfortable with the idea of living in my home.
That was before. Those days I stayed in your house while you were gone changed my mind, I assured him.
That's not the impression I got when I called that first night. You never did tell me what that was about.
He reminded me. I strained as far as the seatbelt would allow and nuzzled his neck. Nothing major. I just had a meltdown. A major reality check. I'm over it now, I murmured, as I circled the ridge of his ear with the tip of my tongue, knowing it was a hot spot of his. He shivered, and I smiled.
Nina.
Yes, dear.
Behave.
He squeezed my hand. But I'm being very. I kissed his neck. Very. I nibbled on his earlobe. Very good. He parked the car and turned to me, catching me by the shoulders. Pastor's waiting, I reminded him with a grin. Roberto glanced at his watch.
We're early, and you're making me crazy.
My response was muffled by his mouth.